Hello there everyone, Inky Fingers here from Inky Fingers Architectural Art. Now what have I got for you today? Well, as you can already see, I'm going to attempt to paint this sort of Mediterranean picture of old houses. Why do I like this? Because there's got some nice texture in the houses. It's got decay, staining. It's got a lot of the things that I love to do. And also, I want to try out a pen I've just bought to do the inking in. Now, what pen have I bought? Well, I was in the range here in the UK looking through the stationery section and I saw this. What caught my eye was it said Pilot, and I do have a couple of Pilot pens already. I have the Pilot Kakuno, which is a fountain pen with a very, very fine tipped nib. And I also have the fantastic Pilot Parallel pen, which is more of a calligraphy pen, but what I like about this is that it takes cartridges, so it'll never run out as long as you've got a bottle of ink. But this is also made by Pilot, and Pilot are made in Japan. So very high quality pens. This is Pilot, so I gather it must be made in Japan. But this pen, what I really like about this, it says of course it's refillable. It takes cartridges, yet it's a ballpoint pen. A ballpoint pen with a 0.5mm nib. And with this particular pen, you got in with it 3 cartridges, extra cartridges. There was a cartridge in the pen already, and you got 3 extra cartridges. Now let's have a quick look at this pen. Well, this is the pen. It's got a transparent section in the side, so you can see how much ink you've got. Now, of course, this isn't an art pen. It was in the stationery section. It's a writing pen, and the ink cartridges. This is the only negative about this. The ink cartridges you get, I mean, they're a fair size, but it's blue ink and it's writing ink, so it's not waterproof. But the pen, it's got a really nice, like a fin section here for to help the ink. Very, very fine tip. There's a cartridge system. Now this has got the blue ink in. This is a second one I bought. And it really writes well. It's extremely smooth, being a ballpoint and being Japanese made, so you can definitely draw with it. But as I said, the ink is not waterproof. You could change the ink, of course. I did buy this one. I bought another one. And this, I just simply, same cartridge, but I emptied the blue ink and installed black waterproof ink. And the ink I'm using here is Liquitex Carbon Black acrylic ink, which, as I've said, is waterproof and is non-clogging, so it shouldn't clog the pen up. So now I have a really nice ultra fine pen that's perfectly portable. As long as you've got a bottle of ink, you will never need to throw this out. So this is the pen I'm going to use to attempt to ink in the picture I'm going to paint. And as it's so fine, I'm hoping to get some really nice little bits of detailing in. Oh yes, I almost forgot. How much does this pen cost? It costs about £1.80 for the one pen and the 3 extra cartridges. So now that's the equipment sorted, let's get down to doing this picture. So the paper today is a sheet of Arches Rough, and the watercolour paints I'll be using today are white knights. I just use these paints for just sketching, nothing really serious. But we do have some nice colours. The colours are French ultramarine, cobalt, cerulean, some sort of cadmium yellow, lemon yellow type. I think that was ruby, which is their intense red. This is cadmium red medium, I believe. This is Madder Lake red, which is just basically a cool red, a bit like crimson. And standard yellow ochre, raw sienna, burnt sienna, olive green. Then we have chromium of oxide and Payne's grey. So basically really basic colours. Now I think this will be quite interesting to see how this pen, which I've never used yet, so I've just filled it up with black ink, how it behaves on rougher paper, watercolour paper. I've tested it out on a piece of good quality cartridge paper, sketching paper, just to get the ink flowing through the pen itself so it works, but I've never tried it on anything proper. But I expect it to work quite well. Now, instantly, as Arch Rough is quite rough, then the nib of this pen, and what I'm not holding it, as you can see, like this, so you get like more of the ball rolling across the paper. I'm holding it more of an angle, so it's going to be a little bit more hit and miss anyway. And it seems to be behaving quite well. Let's put the pen at more of at a vertical angle and see what that's like. Now I've just got this piece of paper here so I don't put grease all over the paper. So put the roof tiles in. Yeah, I mean this line is much more solid as it would be expected. But it is still quite a thin line. But I'm just going to go back to using it at a more, I don't know, something like a 45-degree angle. This is a clothes line with some sheets or whatever. Now I must say already I am actually enjoying the feel of this pen on this paper. And the only downside, if you want to call it a downside, is that being a ballpoint pen, you're not going to get different variations of the line, unlike something like maybe a fountain pen that's a bit flexible, if the nib is a little bit flexible, or indeed if you use a steel nibbed dipping pen, which of course we all know is extremely flexible, and you can get many different line widths and a lot of character within the drawing, the inking stage. So I'm putting pressure on the pen, releasing the pressure on the pen, just to try and get a few extra sort of widths, just to make it look a little bit more organic. And I want to try to be a little bit loose if I can in the sketching, so little bits of wobbly lines if I can. Again, just to give it try to give it a bit of character. But what I will say with this pen and with the original ink that comes with it, yes, it's blue, but I must say it's a very, very nice blue. So if I ever fancied doing something with blue, but not, it would be just a pen sketch and no ink and no water over it to make it into like a watercolour, then yes, I would consider doing something with that colour blue. It is very, very nice. And that's the outline finished, all inked in. Now the pen did go on very nicely. Now it depends on how you hold the pen on this quite rough cotton rag watercolour paper. It was a little bit scratchy here and there, but that's what I wanted. If you want to make a flow a lot better, then you just turn the angle of the pen from that to more like that. So you can get a slight, very slight variation in the lines. So let's get this picture painted. So as we can see here, the sky looks okay. It does the job. But now we have to go to the buildings. Now it's this building here. This is the problem building because it's bubblegum pink. And I don't have a bubblegum pink paint. So I have to improvise. How do I improvise? Well, pink, it's red based, so we'll use red and we'll add white, opaque white to it, whether that be ink or even acrylic. I might actually try a little bit of white acrylic paint. Now this is what I'm going to try. Just titanium white. So we just have a palette, we put just a tiny blob in, some water, mix it all up. So it's a watery consistency, and then we'll put some red in. So I'll try this this cool red, some of the cool red. I think that's getting there, but it's far too light. So let's be brave. It's a horrible colour, but that'll do. We don't have to have it exact, but that will do. So I'll just paint this in. Now this might be a bit gloopy on the paper. This is the only thing. So I think I'll be careful and let's just put this, ooh, good, this pink in. Careful, go around. Let's go around this washing. You know what I think I'll do? I'm going to put some of this in there, and then I'll stick a little bit of raw sienna in. Just to dirty it up a little bit here and there. I will, of course, texturize this up with maybe some splatter or whatever later on, just to give it some more edge. But what I think I will do once this is in, what I'll do, I'm going to do a little bit of splatter with some clean water, just to try and get some natural cauliflowers and texture marks. We can see it just here. I think you might be able to see that. It's just starting to push the paint out. Now it's not going to push the paint out as much because we've got acrylic paint in, so it's going to be I think it's going to be a little bit more gloopy. So I'll just do that, and I think what I may do is again get a little bit of this raw sienna, and if I can just get a little bit, sort of dab it in a little bit like so, just again to get, this is weathering, could be weathering, grime, whatever, but for now I think that'll do. I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll do as you've seen me do and I always go on about it. A little bit of your fluffy, a little bit of kitchen roll, and just tap here and there, just to make a little bit more texture. Right, it makes it a touch more patchy here and there to give it a little bit of natural weathering, just like that. And that is this building done, until we put some more texturizing on right at the end. Now while this is drying, I'm going to paint in this building. Now this building, it's like a dirty white, but this is shadow. So it could be a white building, but I don't want it white. I'm going to change it. I'm going to use artistic license. I'm going to use some yellow ochre and raw sienna, just to give this sort of Mediterranean type look. And I'm just going to paint this in. Maybe see if we can get a bit of dry brush here and there. Being careful not to go over the washing. So that's that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna into the mix, and I'm just going to drop it in. Give that warm sort of look. And then once again, because we need to put the texture on, I'm just going to dab little parts of it out here and there, maybe a bit there, just to give it a little bit more of a patchy old appearance. And then while that's like that, I'm now going to put a little bit of the blue I used in the sky into this mix, and that should mix a bit more of like a dark browny colour, or more of a dirty colour. Let's try and keep this picture to the absolute minimum of colours. And as you can see, we've got this sort of lightish brown colour, and what I would like to do is to try and give a little bit of splatter. I think we do need to do a little bit of protection there. You can see instant texture, instant age, and I'm not even doing anything. And voila, some nice weathered stonework or whatever it's made from. Now these parts here, this looks like the same color as this, so I'm going to leave this more of a light color, a whitish color, but we can't leave it white. So I'm going to tone it down a touch by using some cobalt blue, but very, very dilute. Why cobalt? Well, because French ultramarine is going to be too warm and too dark. Cerulean is just the wrong, I think is going to be the wrong colour completely for doing this. So it's very, very dilute. And then I'm just going to, now that seems quite dark, but I am going to drop some water on and then sort of pull it around. And as we know, watercolour dries 30-40% lighter when it's dry. This should be a lot lighter. And just go over everything here. And then once again, as I always do, we want the texture. Pull, rip, dab. So now this appears white, but it's just got that very, very slight bluish tinge. So I think on this picture I'm going to have I'm going to have the all this in shadow. This, well, the sun's going to be up here behind, just like behind this house, so this is going to be in shadow. This is going, I think I'll have this casting a shadow coming down all the way down here, and then we can just around here we can have sunshine on this part of the building shining through this central archway or something like that. And finally, for the big areas, we need the ground. So what color would the ground be? In this picture it's cobbled, lots of different colors, but I don't want to put that much tonal that much detail in on the floor, so I think I'll probably do this again, something like this color but much lighter. So we've got this color here still, and I'll just paint over. We'll texturize this up with something later on, of course, but I'll just leave that like that for now. And now it's all pretty much blocked in, we just let that dry fully. So next I'm going to put some colour on the doors in this building and the window frames. Now I'm going to use a bit of artistic license again and use green. I want them green. Which green? Well, we've only got two greens here, but I particularly like terre verte. Now for something that could be painted that doesn't need to be a completely natural green, terre verte works wonders. It's a cool green, so we'll just put a touch of terre verte there. You see it's a nice cool green, and then I'll just paint in the window frames. Well, it's not really the window frames, I suppose. It's more like a wooden structure that the window frames are in. I'll drop a touch of clean water here and there, the tiny brush, just to give some little cauliflowers, and which will again give it the look of old paintwork. So we're now dry. So the next thing is to start and put some texture, like staining, on this building here, on the archway. So you can see dirty marks, aged dirty marks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use, I can use some of this colour we used for the brown door. We can use some of this colour we used for the sky. We can use some of this colour what we used for this building, and even a little bit of this green. Just keep with all the colours we've got in the picture. So I'm going to be using just a very small brush. This is a number 1, just a nylon brush, and I'm going to start with going into this yellow ochre and raw sienna mix. And so all I'm going to do here is pull a little bit across like so. Drop some water on. You've seen me do it many times with brickwork. And then just pull it down a little bit. A bit more water, or lots of water. Just drop it on, drag it down. We'll just drag it down a bit more with some fresh paint, and then as ever get our rag and then just gently here and there, just where you want a little bit of patchiness. Let's have a little bit round there. It's a bit dark at the top, so I'll just very gently tap, so that makes it more interesting. And I think I'll do the same with this building. I've just put it on. I'm literally dry brushing it. I'm using the flat end of the brush. I'm just dragging it across. And because it's only a very small brush and it's only nylon, it really does drag across this paper nicely. So a little bit of that. I'll stick a little bit of this brown in. Brown we use for the door. Drop the water in. Let it mingle a bit. A little bit of a dab. So it appears more like a stain. And I think as we get down to this part, stick some of this colour of the sky in. Actually, I'll put a little bit in there. Get in the water, pull it down. Now we dry again. I'm going to go back onto this and apply some more staining. To do this, I'm going to go back into the brown we used for the door, and I'm going to just put a little bit here and there. Again, same thing. Drop some water, pull it around. We will have a little bit more down near the where it joins onto this pink building. The water on, pull it, so makes it more stain, of like a stain. Perhaps a little bit just down here, like so. But I'll leave this little bit here, just above the arch. I'll leave that light, or lighter. And then, while this is still wet, I'm going to go into the green we used for the door. I'm going to put some on. This could be, I don't know, some, I don't think it'll be moss, but I'll just put a little bit on there. Again, drop the water on. So this is now, I'll put some of this green just on the bottom, like something growing up. Now that's already very wet, so I'm not going to really do much with that. Just let it do what it likes. I'll put a little bit just around here, and finally just a touch of water just to blend that upwards, so we're still keeping this area here a little bit light. Touch of green here because that's near the ground. Was a bit much, but we just drop the water on, then pull it, and then just give a very quick dab. And that's it. Now what we're going to do, this is still very wet, but we've got some light areas here, i.e. the windows. So dark windows today. So I'm just going to I'm going to put some French ultramarine and Payne's grey, just to have a nice bluey black. And then with a small brush, I'm just going to paint in. Now I haven't actually drawn any window frames on this. I have there, didn't do it on there. So I'm just going to try and just leave a little mark, well, an unpainted area like that. We'll do the same here. I don't want to do anything major with the window frame, window panes, like putting reflections or anything, because they're only small and there's enough details around and texture around the other parts of the picture. So that's that. Now I haven't put any on there, so carefully, there's one window, There's another window. So that's the windows put in, but I am and they're still wet, so I'm just going to put a touch of clean water, just drop it on. Oop, that's a bit much. Just to give, hopefully it'll just a touch of cauliflowers, just to make it look like they've got some reflections. And it is quite blobby paint, so just to make it dry quicker and to add to a little bit more, like could be some reflections, again just quickly dab, just like that. Just takes the excess paint off and just adds a touch, just a touch of light without actually really doing anything. I think next job is darken this area up here. All this is going to be in shadow anyway, the floor, but I'm just going to use the colour I used for this door. I just put, I think, a touch more water, just a touch more water in, and I'm just going to basically scrub this in. Let's ruin the brush. And then I'll take some of this burnt sienna and I'll just see if I can streak some of that in. Like so. Now looking at this, we have some washing out. So I want some vibrant colours. I'm just going to mix, I've just mixed up this red and this red together. It's vibrant, that's all I want. And I'm going to just paint this in a nice red colour. We'll have this one, we'll try a yellow. That is rather vibrant, isn't it? Now in these background buildings here, they're pretty blank. We can't be putting details in here, but we can put some windows. So what I'm going to try to do with just this is just a flat brush, a tiny flat brush. I'm going to use this window colour. I'll dab the brush a little bit so that most of the paint's off, and I'm going to see if I can get some a little bit of dry brush. Just to give a hint at a little few windows. Now it's getting close to the point where I'm going to have to put the shadows in just to give a little bit of oomph to it, because it is very, very flat at the moment. But I want to try and put a little bit more texturizing in the buildings. So I'm going to use this colour I used for the sky with the other colours in the brush. It's gone a bit of a greyish blue. And I just want to see if I can put a little bit of this colour around here, and again drop a little bit of water, pull it around, a little bit of dab here and there, just to make it look like it's got some extra dirty bits. I'll use it's a little bit too big, that brush. This is the brush I always use for this, because you can scrub it around and do what you like. So it just gives a little bit of dirt. we'll have a little bit just under the eaves there. Drop the water on. We'll have to have some down here. A little bit around that window. I'll do the same with this, a little bit more. I'll put some really dark in there. Drop the water on to make it more of a stain. I'll put some down here. Just dipping into the colours I've already used elsewhere. You get a little bit of dark there. Just pull that down. A little bit of the brown, stick some of the brown there. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll be brave and we'll stick these shadows on, because there's quite a bit of it that's going to have to be in shadow. So for this shadow colour I'm going to try cobalt blue and this cool red. So this is going to give quite a warm sun-kissed shadow colour. So we don't really want anything too cool. Let's try this. And I said I'm going to have the sunshine coming from down here. So this part of the house is going to be in sunlight, and this is going to be in sunlight, but everything here is going to be in shadow. So let's just see what this is going to be like. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow ochre in that. That's just going to cool it down a touch. So seems strong, but we know it will dry out a lot lighter. So we need this. I think that around there. That's going to be in shadow because it's underneath. We'll put all of this in shadow there. I think that bit might be in sunlight as it goes down there. Yeah, I think so. So we'll have that in shadow. Now this is where it gets scary. The sun's there, so that's going to cast, I think, a shadow going somewhere down there. Get some all along, maybe it's down to there, and all of this is going to be in shadow. All of that's going to be in shadow, but we're going to have maybe, oh, I think the archway, we'll put the archway somewhere like that. And I think all of this I think it'll be in shadow. And I'm running out of wash. So we're all dry again. Shadows are in. I've put a few little creases in the washing, but one thing I need to do is I need to here and there strengthen up some of these lines, especially where the shadows have been, because the washers have subdued the thin, very thin lines of this pen. So I do need to just mess on a little bit. I've already sort of done it with this door, so all I need to do really is just to roughly go over parts, just to make some of the lines a little bit more prominent. And also, because it's pen and wash, we can also just do a little bit of hatching or cross hatching, like in the windows, just to give a little bit of texture. And also what it can do is, this is a very old wall and this is a very fine pen. I can, for example, on this doorway here, we can use in the side of the pen so it's a bit more scratchy. I can just put in a few little dings in the sort of the stone wall, so it looks like it's old. A few little one of cracks here and there. There's a chunk of the wall off there. So all these little things with the pen will add texture and it'll add dynamics and age, lots and lots of nice things. So I'm just going to go over, just putting here and there little cracks or little, just some little dots, dashes here and there, some cross hatching here and there, and when it's done I'll be back and we'll see. I've gone over it with the pen. As we can see, I've got some more pen marks here and there, some little flecks of pen, little dots. I've got some little bits of hatching or cross hatching here and there in the windows. I've put some dark marks at the bottom of the buildings to make it look like there's grime growing up into the walls. The photograph had a railing going down the stairs, so I've put the railing in quickly. And just a few little telegraph wires just to fill certain areas in. And that's it. So we'll just have a look at this, take the masking tape off and maybe put a mount on to see what it looks like. And that's what the picture looks like with the little mount. The mount is a little bit too small to fit the actual picture itself, but it gives us a good idea. Now, I like it. The pen performed very well. You can get a nice rustic feel on the on a rough paper. If we just zoom in here, we can see the texture, what the pen can give. I had to go over the lines, as I said. The only thing I would say about doing something like this with that pen is to do the painting first and then add the pen on afterwards. Then it would save you a little bit of a job of having to go over and roughen the lines up. but it's going to be a very nice little pen to take out in the field, especially if you like taking fine liner pens out like Unipin or Micron. Try getting one of these pens, put some black ink in, waterproof black ink, and using that. I think you might like it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little painting and the demonstration of the pen. If you did like it and you would like to see more of this type of thing, then if you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe. It's all free and it does help the channel. And of course, leave a comment. That really does help the channel a lot. So, until next time, I'll see you later. So, goodbye.